today we're going to go on a task of trying to find some positives around the Calgary Flames. Before we dive into that, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, as always, alongside me from FlamesNation.ca, Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
We're doing great. It's a great day to be alive. Flames are playing the Maple Leafs today. That game's always kind of fun. So, yeah, lots of positives, lots of good things going on here.
Maple Leaf lover Rob is in a great mood today. Good to see it. Good to see
Go
it.
Leafs go.
Lots of Leaf fans in town on this, what will be a Monday night game, which is weird for me to say.
8 o'clock, which is
8 o'clock.
totally bizarre because it doesn't help people in the city of Calgary. It doesn't help viewers in Ontario. What are we doing with an 8 o'clock start against the Leafs? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't get it either. The other one later in the week is also 8 o'clock, so that'll make fans happy, like late night hockey. Robert, this is going to be a fun week as the Olympics are approaching as well. A couple games before the break, got the deadline. I guess the roster freeze, what they're calling it, before the Olympics. Big week ahead for the Flames here. But before we dive into all of that and all that more, let's look back a little bit here. The Flames, they had lost 5 in a row. They played one of their better games on the weekend versus San Jose Sharks. What'd you make of that game on Saturday? A matinee affair with two Western teams that always feels weird to me. But what'd you make of that game on Saturday?
I actually thought that was one of the more entertaining games of the whole season. I really enjoyed it. You had some great performances from a couple players in Morgan Frost and Matvei Grindin. Dustin Wolf was really good. So you had those high-end performances. And, yeah, the Flames scored nice goals. The Dome was into it. We got to see Macklin Celebrini, which is always special. So, yeah, I mean, it was actually, once again, I thought it was one of the more entertaining games of the year. And I wish that we could say that about more games this season. And hopefully we can between now and the deadline or now and the end of the season when we get some more young players up here. But, yeah, really enjoyed it. How about you?
Yeah, I like that the power play did something. I like that the penalty kill did something. I like that 5-on-5 they did something. And I thought for the first time in a long time, we saw both 10 and 91 not be plugs and actually play a little bit of hockey, which was nice to see. So I thought a lot of players were a little bit more engaged on Saturday. Not perfect, but better. And I really liked how they defended against guys like Celebrini and Will Smith and William Eklund against San Jose. There was a lot of really nice standing up with the blue line, defending as a team, and they were rewarded for it. It was a really nice hockey game. And I thought Dustin Wolf looked really good. I thought he looked really good, and it was nice to see him play just a nice, solid, calm hockey game back there for the Flames. And the coaching staff let his guys play. They let those guys play. They had a great game plan, and they executed it. So it was nice to see. I know Team Tank's probably yelling at their radios or their phones right now because the Flames won a hockey game, but it was nice to see the team win. They're not going to lose out. Like the last 34 games aren't going to all be slogs that are 4-1 losses. So it's nice to see the Flames play a nice hockey game, reward a Saturday afternoon crowd. Those kind of efforts are fun to watch because they're also fueled by what we're going to jump into as our first topic of the day here is kids. Like you mentioned, Grindin with that beautiful shot to score that goal. I thought Dustin Wolf was really strong in goal for the Flames as well. This future for the Flames, Robert, people like to talk about the immediacy of it. We need to tank for the high-end prospects. We need Gavin McKenna. We need this guy. We need Landon Dupont next year. But you had a really nice piece on Afterburner talking with your buddy Mike Gould there about the future of the Flames. Actually already looks pretty bright. So I thought we'd bring that to the podcast here, Robert. There's a solid foundation to build on, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And, you know, like you just said, I was looking to try to bring some positivity to the broadcast and Afterburner. And when you take a look at the young players in the Flames organization right now, you know, off the top of your head, like it doesn't sound all that exciting because they don't have a Gavin McKenna, they don't have a Celebrini or Bedard right now. But when you break it down, I think Craig Conroy and Brad Treliving and the previous management team has actually done a pretty nice job of building a solid foundation for the future of this team. Because, you know, I take a look at Dustin Wolf, who, you know, I think is going to be probably a top 10, top 12 starter in the league for a long time. And then on defense, you got Zayne Parekh, who has the potential to be, you know, a number one power play quarterback and maybe a second pair guy, maybe could put up 60, 70 points kind of thing. Hunter Brestevich seems like he could be a solid top 4 option. Kevin Ball, Yan Kuznetsov, more defensive guys, but they bring size and defensive prowess to the blue line. So I think you like your goaltending, you like your defense. You can even throw maybe a Henry Muse in there. He was having a really nice year in Michigan before getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then up front, lots of solid prospects. Nothing crazy, but you got Matt Coronado, who could score 25, 30 goals most seasons. Matvei Grindin, who he was outstanding on Saturday. Like, he's starting to really show that he's a legit NHLer and that he's probably going to be a top 6 forward for a long time. And then you got Cole Reshny, who he could be like a middle 6 center, maybe a 50, 60 point guy. Colin Potter, Sam Honzig, and then one guy who I know he's been getting lots of praise on social media, but I don't really know if we realize like how special a season this guy's having. It's Ethan Wittenbach.
Yeah, it's been good.
Leads the NCAA in scoring as a freshman.
Yeah, that's nuts.
5th round pick. Crazy. Like these types of numbers, the freshmen don't put up these types of numbers on a regular occurrence. This is a very special year that Wittenbach's having. And like what we saw with Johnny Gaudreau was, he was a 4th round pick, and because the Flames weren't picking high and they tended to trade a lot of draft picks, they had to hit a home run somewhere in the draft. It really didn't matter where it was, and they did with Johnny, and they might have again with Ethan Wittenbach as a 5th round pick. I mean, if he could turn into like a top line player, and I know that's putting a lot of expectations on a young player, but he's having a special season. So, there's that. And then I'll just throw there's like a secondary group, I would call it, like a secondary group of prospects who, if you can get 2 or 3 guys to become NHLers, you'd be really happy. So, I just have Henry Muse, Jacob Battaglia, Andrew Basha, Idar Suniev, Etienne Morin, Theo Stocksilius, Luke Misa, William Stromgren, Rory Cairns, Axel Herdig, Arseny Sergeyev. Like, if you can get 2 or 3 of those guys to be, impact players at the NHL level, to go along with the guys who I just mentioned earlier, and the guys who you're going to draft at the top of the draft over the next 2 to 3 seasons here, all of a sudden, like, the Flames are building something kind of special here, in my opinion. It's going to take time to get there, but overall, I do think fans should be pretty happy and pretty positive about the future of this team, because just listen to all the people that I ran off there. I mean, listed off there. The Flames are not starting from scratch like the Chicago Blackhawks did when they did their rebuild, or where San Jose did when they started their rebuild, or Detroit back in the day. The Flames have a solid foundation to build on here. So yeah, I just think it's exciting. I think it's something worth noting, and it should be something worth discussing among Flames fans here. And I mean, I'll throw it to you. I mean, like, how do you feel about this group? Am I kind of over exaggerating here about how talented this kind of group of players is, or like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, you're out to lunch. No, just kidding. This group of players and the variety that Craig Conroy and co have drafted over the last couple of drafts to add to what they already had in the Cupboards and the Zaries and the Cornells and those guys should make all groups of Flame fans, whether they're Team Tank or we need to make the playoffs or somewhere in the middle, whatever group of fans you kind of associate yourself with, this group of prospects should really excite you and satisfy what you're looking for. So Team Tank, they're going to want that elite talent, and the Flames look like they're in a spot that they're going to be able to add that elite talent to that roster in this year's draft, maybe next year's draft. Those who want to make the playoffs, well, you got yourself a nice foundation to take over from these older players, the Kadris and the Hubertos and the Backlund as they age out. You've got players that will come through the college ranks, your Cole Reshnys, your Colin Potters, even Sam Honzig. Now they're going to come up, start taking those roles. And so you're not really missing your role players because you've got guys ready to take those spots from them. And so this rebuild that the Flames are doing right now, this retooling of this roster, this doesn't have to be a 5, 6, 7 year dip down to the bottom of the standings. This is the part of the rebuild where they just got to get those elite guys now. Add in your Gavin McKenna. Add in, say, maybe it is Stanberg, or you fall in the draft a little bit and it's Lawrence, whoever it might be, to add to this group, to put this group over the top. I love how you were at the end of your tweet when you put that out. What was that, on Saturday? They just need to draft a couple more elite players to this group, and that's exactly where they're at, I think, for this Flames group. You've got various styles. You've got your big, tough, stay-at-home defensemen in Ball and Kuznetsov. You've got your power play guys, your offensive guys, Brstavich and Perek, possibly Henry Muse. What's Jeremy Poirier for this group? You've got centermen that could play a couple of different roles. Like, what is Cole Reshny today? Could he actually become a number 1-esque type center or a 1B type center? Or is he a good number 3? Like, he could be a various amount of things. And then you got guys like Wittenbach that's going to be what is he at the end of the day? What can he end up being at the end of the day? And so if you're a Flames fan or you're looking to the future of this roster, you got to be excited because there's a lot of these guys. We know not everyone's going to pan out, but on paper, man, this is a lot of fun to look at. This is a lot of fun to say, yeah, we dread seeing a 38-year-old, 39-year-old Backlund or Kadri in a couple years, but I'm also really excited to see what is Cole Reshny in a couple seasons. What is Matvei Grindin in a couple years? Can Andrew Basher come up through the ranks and be something in the bottom 6? What can we actually see from a guy like Perek and Brstavich? And those are very exciting questions to ask for me and things to look for. So I don't think you're off base at all, Robert. It's like a nice foundation that Connery has done here. The trick now is he's got to tie it together, and you do that with these highly drafted elite, quote-unquote, fantasy players like we saw with Celebrini.
Yeah, God. Every time I think about that quote, it just pisses me off more and more. Oh, God damn it, Don Maloney. But one other thing I'll add to that is, like we're talking that they need to add more elite talent to this group, and they absolutely do. Like, don't get me wrong. They need to pick in the top, hopefully the top 3 in the next couple drafts here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, there are some guys who are showing kind of elite levels of talent or elite tendencies in Dustin Wolf, who had a spectacular year last year. He struggled a bit this year, like prior to the win.
Who hasn't?
The whole team's been terrible. But prior to the game against San Jose, he had let in 4 more goals in 7 of his last 8 starts. Like that's not really typical of Dustin Wolf, but I think he'll turn around. I think he's going to be a very good goalie for a long time. Zayne Perek has the chance to be an elite offensive defenseman, kind of like an Evan Bouchard right now, which is exciting. And then, I go back to Wittenbach, and just like I said, the numbers he's putting up in the NCAA as a freshman, as a 5th round pick, it's stupid. Like, it's unbelievable. And if he could turn into another Johnny Gaudreau, type of player, a first line, highly skilled winger that makes his teammates around him better, he's showing elite tendencies right now in the NCAA. It'd be fascinating. I mean, I'll have to maybe reach out to somebody that follows the NCAA and see if there's another freshman who's led the NCAA in scoring like Wittenbach has, because I don't think it happens very often. So, like I said, add a Gavin McKenna to that group, add a Ivar Stedberg, add a Landon DuPont, those types of players to this group, and all of a sudden, 4 to 6 years from now, the Calgary Flames could be a super dangerous team in the NHL. They're building something here. If they stay the course this year and they pick high in the draft, and they stay the course next year and they pick high in the draft, they're building a roster that has the potential to be one of the most exciting young groups, young teams that we've seen in the NHL in a long time. And I don't think that's over exaggerating. I'm really, really excited, and I'm intrigued to see how this prospect group is going to develop here over the next few years. I mean, realistically though, like how long is it going to take for these guys to get this team back into being, a contender or a consistent playoff team? Like how far away do you think this group is?
I don't think it's as far as some people think it is, because you're already seeing guys graduate and take on roles. Kuznetsov, he snagged a job this year. Looks like Brstavich just snagged a job this year. You're seeing Coronado solidify himself. Grindin looks like a full-time. We'll talk about him a bit later. He looks like a full-time NHLer. So I don't think it's next year that this Flame also flip a switch and they're just this elite team now. But it's not out of the question, I think, in 3, maybe 4 seasons to see this Flames team start battling legitimately for playoff spots. Not just a wild card, but like maybe being a top 3 in the Pacific Division. And then 5-6 years, maybe they're fighting for top spot in the West. They're being a playoff team consistently. They're trying to be a contender to go to the Stanley Cup. So I don't think they're that far off. The trick here for the Flames, and what I think has struggled in this organization, this goes to a lot of past general manager like that. It's player development needs to take a major step for this organization to get these guys to that next level. And we've started seeing that a little bit from the Flames here. They've struggled in the past to get the best out of some of their prospects and to get these guys to come to the NHL and to be effective players. So if they can get the player development department to really hone in on these guys and get these guys to the next level, and keep graduating guys from the Wranglers to the Flames, I don't think they're that far off, Robert. I know we're talking in perfect worlds here, but, in a perfect world, this Flames team is not that far off. You just got to get these guys to the next level. A little bit more from Grindin, a little bit more from Connor's area, a little bit more consistency from Coronado. Things like that will help this roster move forward. So I don't think they're that far away. 3-4 years, they should be back into being in the playoff mix once they get these elite guys in this lineup here.
Here's my one concern is that in order to take that next step, yes, you need your young players to step up and be, like the next core of the team, and they need to be the difference makers. No doubt about that. But at the same time, you still do need some quality veterans around.
Agreed.
And I'm not just talking about from like a leadership perspective. That's obviously important, but like from an on-ice perspective and just in terms of, playing defense, the penalty kill, just bringing that kind of veteran presence to a team. And 2 to 3 years from now, kind of that timeline that we're talking about, Michael Backlund's probably going to be retired by then. Blake Coleman's gone. Kadri's gone. Huberdeau will be 35. Like, what's Huberdeau going to look like at 35? What's Weegar going to look like at 34 years old? I mean, we're already starting to see him slow down a bit, and maybe it's just a down year, or maybe this is the start of a trend. We don't know yet. But all of a sudden, all these veteran guys that you've been touting and you've been talking about how important they are to this team, they're basically all going to be gone.
Yep.
So, they're going to have to supplement these young players with almost a new group of veterans, whether it's they make a trade because they have so many different draft picks and prospects. They can probably trade for a veteran or two, or they overpay for a couple guys in free agency. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because they do need vets, and the vets that are here right now, they're not going to be here anymore. So that's another thing that's going to be really interesting to see how Craig Conroy kind of navigates that. One guy that
let me jump in there real quick here.
Yeah.
I really think that's what makes the conversations around guys like Whitecloud, Frost, and Farabee really intriguing, because could that be your next leadership group? Could that be those guys that you're looking to take the next step in that term of, hey, we need you to lead this group of ours? Can Morgan Frost be the future 3C of this roster and just be an assistant captain to help lead that group of young players? Nothing really to add there. Just that's what I kind of wonder. Is the next group of veterans in-house? Is that why we have Frost? Is that why Farabee's around? And are those players good enough to do those kind of roles? Just kind of things I'd be wondering about.
Yeah, and I don't know if they are. I mean, I could see Farabee leaving Calgary after his contract's up. He's an American guy, and the Flames they're going to lose every year he's going to be here. Morgan Frost, man, if he could play like he did on Saturday against the Sharks more often, all of a sudden he actually becomes a pretty valually piece. But he's just so inconsistent, and I don't think we can expect that from him. So I don't know if he's a big part of the future. The guy that I left off my list, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, is where does Connor Zary fit in this organization for the next, let's call it 4 to 7 years? Is this a guy you're wanting to keep and build around, or is he going to be gone in a couple years?
Well, you know me, I'm a little bit biased. So future Hall of Famer Connor Zary, top line. No, just kidding. I love Connor Zary and what he brings to this game. When he plays like he has the last little while here, I think he's been a lot better since Christmas. He can be an effective player. I think this is a guy that you can have in that middle six that can push other guys, that can bring the energy. My issue with Connor is that consistency word comes up with him as well, right? He can play tentative when he doesn't feel 100%. He can take a step back. He can be invisible for a couple of weeks. So what is his game and what's the outlook for him? I think he can be a valuable piece to this Flames organization, but at the same time, if a team comes along, maybe you can get something for him if that's the route you want to look at. So he's an interesting piece, because he's still, I would classify him as a younger player. I would still classify him as a guy who has more to give for this roster, and I'd like to see it here in Calgary. I love him. I like the player, and I hope he is part of the long-term plans of this Flames organization. But if he's the piece you got to include in another trade to bring in a true veteran leader, then that is something you'd probably have to look at.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, for me, like, I'm certainly not giving up on this player. There's absolutely no way I'm giving up on him.
There's too much there.
Totally agree. What I would say is, starting next year, he's really got to take a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
This has not been a good year. Yes, he's had a stronger last 20 games or so here, where he's been one of the Flames' top point getters. But the thing with him, and I always come back to with him, and I'm sure people are getting annoyed hearing this, but and it was evident on Saturday, is just the skating. Like, he has to become a significantly better skater if he's going to be a true difference maker in the NHL. Like, on Saturday, it really stood out to me just how slow he was, and he ended up getting benched. He barely played in the third period of that game, and I think that's the reason why, is because he wasn't moving his feet. And when he is moving his feet, he's a very effective player, because the skill, the smarts, the playmaking are all, in my opinion, above average NHL skills. But the skating, and I would say his shot too, he really needs to work on his shot, but particularly the skating, he's honestly one of the worst skating forwards I've watched in the NHL this year. And I went back and I looked at NHL Edge data, and they have like the chips in the jerseys, and they can show like how fast these players are going. And Connor Zary is dead last on the Flames among regular forwards in speed bursts over 20 miles per hour. He has 8 total this year. And I think the NHL average was like around 50 or 60. So that tells me that there's really no acceleration to his skating. When he gets to his top speed's not that fast. Like, he needs to work with Daniel Fujita, the Flame skating coach, all summer. And he needs to do like power skating, and he needs to turn that part of his game around. Because if he can just become a slightly below average NHL skater or an average NHL skater, if he can just become that, I automatically think he's a top 9 forward for a long time in this league. But if he can't figure out the skating here, I really wonder about his future, because there are times where he just, like, him and Morgan Frost are essentially the same player. There are times where they show brilliant flashes of skill, and it's so tantalizing, and you're like, holy crap, like, if this guy could just be a little more consistent and better skater, he could be a really dangerous player in this league. But he's just got to work on that skill. And I'm giving him basically the entire length of the contract to figure it out. So he's got next year and the year after that. So I'm basically giving him up until the trade deadline in 2028. That's how long you have to improve your skating here. And if he does, then great. He's going to be a big part of your future. If he can't figure it out, then I think his time in Calgary might be numbered. That's kind of how I see it playing out.
He needs to, in my opinion, he's never going to have the rat side of the game like Matthew Tkachuk does. He's got to kind of almost approach it like Matthew Tkachuk does. Matthew Tkachuk's an awful skater. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, terrible.
He's not great. But what he's done is he's learned how to put himself in spots and situations with his hockey IQ to make that thing, that weakness of his game, not a big weakness. And so I think if Connor Zary has, at the same time, is working on his skating, improve how he's thinking the game a little bit quicker thought process, he should be able to negate that with a little bit, working on the skating, getting better in that aspect, but also thinking of high level. He should negate a lot of those concerns that people are having about his game, because he should be in better spots positionally. He could be able to anticipate better and finish better. And I think all those things could come together and make him a really effective National Hockey League player. I don't think those knee injuries helped him. And yes, that sounds like an excuse, but you have 2 big knee injuries in one season. That does put you behind a little bit of the 8 ball, but now you got to power through, because that can't be your excuse at this point after the fact. Now's the time where you're going to get the minutes. You're going to get the opportunities. Now you got to take it upon yourself to take those opportunities and do something with them. And that involves working on your skating, working on your positional, working on how you think the game, working with a lot of different areas of your game here. You got a nice contract on the table here, and so you've got the opportunity, you're going to get it done. And Huska seems to when he's going, he seems to play him a lot. Like, when he's going, Huska plays this guy. So you know that you have the trust of the coach when you're on your game. So just take it to your advantage, use it as your advantage, and make yourself part of it, because he could be a really big piece of the next group of Flames teams that are in the playoffs, and a guy that might be hard to play against would be all the difference for a group that seems to have a lot of skill coming up through the ranks here for the Flames.
Yeah, and like the thing he's got to be a little bit concerned about is all the players that we'd mentioned earlier in the episode. There are a lot of wingers, young wingers in this organization that are looking for spots over the next 4 to 5 years. And, like we talked about, like Matvei Grindin's already come in and surpassed him, in my opinion. I know that might be crazy to say because he's only played like 12 games, but I think Grindin's ceiling is quite a bit higher than Connor Zary's.
Way better.
Totally. Ethan Wittenbach, he's going to come and look for a spot. Cullen Potter, Sam Honzig, Battaglia, Basha, Suniev, Misa, Stromgren, Cairns, like all these guys are looking to take spots in the lineup, and Zary's is up for grabs. And I just pulled up his NHL Edge page here, and so his max skating speed this year is 20.79 miles per hour. The NHL average is 22.11 miles per hour. So he's pretty significantly below average in max skating speed. He has 0 22 plus mile per hour bursts this year. NHL average is 3, not terrible. This is the concerning one, though. It's 20 to 22 mile per hour speed bursts. He has 8. The NHL average is 52.
Yikes.
So, that just kind of goes to show, the point I was making about his skating there. So, man, I'm a big fan of the kid. I love the personality. Like, he is actually one of the few Flames players who actually has like a really good personality and likes to show it off a little bit. Like, I really appreciate that about him. He's been like a good spokesperson for the city. Like, he feels like a Calgary Flame. Like, there's so many things to like about Connor Zary. It's just it's getting to a point pretty soon here within the next 1.5 seasons where he's going to need to start to show that he's ready to take that next step forward and be a more consistent offensive threat and hopefully push to be a 45, 50 point guy, because he's not quite there yet.
If I'm Connor Zary, there's one guy I'm really watching out for, and that's Andrew Basha. You mentioned him in your answer there. I think Andrew Basha is a faster Connor Zary type player that's more consistent when he gets going. So I know Basha had that injury and he's trying to work his way back from it, but I'd be watching out for Basha if I was a Flames fan and a Connor Zary, because he's one of my favorites coming up through the ranks here.
And there's even going to be guys that they draft this year who are, within 2 or 3 years are going to start wanting to get some spots and looks in the NHL too. Like there's a lot of guys, coming up here in this organization. So yeah, Zary's got to be ready to fight them off here.
And Flames are probably gonna have 2 or 3 first rounders this year. You're gonna have a high second round draft pick as well. So these guys are gonna be coming quick. We've talked about this next guy a couple times before we get to the defense here, Robert. Let's talk about this guy. We've mentioned him quite a few times here and how much we've enjoyed watching him. He had a really good game on Saturday. That shot against the Sharks was a magnificent goal, one of the best I've seen from Matvei Grindin. He looks great, and he looks like he's developing some chemistry with Morgan Frost. What do you make of Matvei Grindin's few games in the National Hockey League? Are you excited about more? Of course we are. How high is the ceiling for this guy for you? And how nice was it to see that chemistry with Morgan Frost? Because I don't think a lot of people expected those two to click like they did. But Saturday they looked really, really good together.
Yeah, they were like they were a more dynamic duo than Celebrini and Smith were for that one specific game. They
were probably the best 2 players on that ice on Saturday.
100% they were. And yeah, I'm excited to see, what they can do here over, between now and the end of the season. I do think those 2 types of players, I think, will work really well off each other because they're both incredibly skilled. They're both incredible playmakers, and they have great vision on the ice. So I'm excited to see how they work off each other. And the part of Matvei Grindin's game that I'm most impressed by are just kind of like the small little skill plays he makes that might kind of go unnoticed. If you watch his goal against the Sharks on Saturday, he kicks off the play, taking a puck off the boards, controlling the puck, spinning around and putting the puck right on the defenseman's tape to kind of keep the play going and set that up. Like, you don't see many 19-year-olds making plays like that in the National Hockey League. And there was a play earlier in the game where he got his stick in a lane, poked a puck past a San Jose defender, and it kicked off a rush, and it led to 2 grade A high danger scoring chances for the Flames. There's like little plays he makes along the boards that are really impressive. It's just, I'm probably going to go back and take a look at some of his shifts and put together a video of just some of like the little passes he's making and just kind of show what type of talent this guy has. It's really exciting. I think he's probably the most talented forward prospect they have in their system right now. So yeah, between now and the end of the season, he is a guy that should be playing in every single game. He should be playing on the power play. He should be playing in the top 6 and playing with skilled guys like Frost, because he should not come out of the lineup, man. He's been really good, and I'm really excited to see the steps he can take here in his development.
It's not often you see a 19-year-old have such an active but controlled stick like we see from Grindin.
Totally.
His stick doesn't stay still, and it stays on the ice. A lot of kids will skate with their stick in the air or at waist level. This guy's stick is on the ice. It's active. It's everywhere, and it allows them to do those little plays like you're mentioning, Robert. I'm glad you mentioned those, because I really noticed that more on Saturday than I have in the past, and I started honing in on his shifts. And watching him defensively, he's a better defensive player than I thought I gave him credit for. He's more active than I was giving him credit for. And then his ability to turn the play on a dime like he did on his goal from one end to the other, just so quick and dynamic, and he gets to the spots he needs to get to the spots, and just really high hockey IQ. And at 19 is very impressive what we're seeing from Matvei Grindin. And I think the way that he plays and what he's doing for the Flames has really helped, ground Frost a little bit. Hey, Morgan, you've got to play a guy here who can play with you. He can keep up. He's thinking at a high level, and he makes the game easier for Morgan Frost. And I think that really helped Morgan have a good game on Saturday as well. So when you have a 19-year-old showing those kind of skills, almost those leadership qualities as well, it just jumps off the screen at you, because what the Flames have on their roster right now, we're not seeing a lot of that. And it's so fun to watch. It's so exciting to watch. And it just shows that how important it is to draft the best skill and the highly skilled players in the draft, no matter where you're drafting. Always take best available player, because when he was picked, I saw a lot of humming and hawing online because people didn't really know about his game. But now we're seeing it. We're seeing this game, and it's remarkable. Like, that shot so quick, that stick is so active. He's got really good skating, and he needs to improve a little bit more on that area as well. But this kid should not come out of the lineup, Robert. I'm with you there. This is a top 6, no doubt, player for me for the next decade for the Flames if he continues to perform like that. And if he does that and he brings guys like Morgan Frost into the action more, oh, man, the Flames hit a home run with this draft pick. And, man, I can't wait to see more of him, because he brings you out of your seats. We haven't seen a player bring you out of your seat since Johnny Gaudreau. Right, so you want players like this in your lineup. Skill will always win out at the end of the day, and Grindin's got a buttload of skill.
Yeah, and then like a couple other things that we didn't mention was one, he's actually bigger and stronger than I think we've all kind of given him credit for. You know, according to people who are down at the rink every day, they said like his lower body is like massive. Like, he's got like a really like big lower body, so he's got that kind of low center of gravity, which is important for a young guy in the NHL. And then the other thing too is he's pretty cocky, and he's got like an attitude to him, and I really like that. It's the kind of confidence where it's like you need that if you're going to be a top 6 player in the NHL, especially as a younger guy like Grindin is. I do think you need a little bit of swag to you and a little bit of confidence, and just because like when you have the puck on your stick, you want a guy who knows that he can make plays, who knows that he's a skilled player and he's out here for a reason. He's never doubting himself, and I do think that's important too. So the overall package with Grindin is extremely exciting, because like we just said, the guy can fly. He's a really good skater. He's got a really good shot. He's a good playmaker, good stick, good hands. He's big. He's confident. Like, what more could you ask for in terms of a player? Like, he's got like every quality you could possibly want. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. And yeah, let's see if him and Frost can kind of keep up this chemistry here.
Yeah, and the points are starting to come from him. He only has the 4 points in the 11 games he's played this year, but the points are coming. A goal like that you saw on Saturday just shows that he's confident now at this level. He's used to the speed. He's used to the play. So you love it.
And I find with guys who are younger and talented, it usually takes them anywhere from about 1 to 3 months to kind of figure out the league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like going back to Sam Honzig, I thought he was really starting to figure it out, right around the time he got hurt there. And I thought he was on the verge of breaking out and becoming a really good player. And I'm getting the same sort of sense here with Grindin. It's taken him, like you said, probably 11, 12 games here to get used to the NHL speed and pace and all that kind of stuff. But now it feels like he's really starting to figure it out. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's at or a little bit above a half point per game player between now and the end of the season, which is quite the accomplishment on this Calgary Flames team.
Yeah, maybe he'll pull Huberdeau along a little bit, because that was the best Huberdeau's looked in a long time too.
That would be nice too.
But I digress on that conversation. If you want to listen to Huberdeau slander, go to last week's episode. His sentiment on that line Saturday, we've talked about him too. Morgan Frost. This is a guy who's getting a lot of conversations around him for a number of different reasons. People are talking about, even Ryan Huska talked about it on Saturday, about when he plays like that, he's an effective player, and he was excellent on Saturday. And then there's the conversation about, well, what actually is Morgan Frost? And those that take the longer, bigger picture view of, since he's been in Calgary from Philadelphia in that trade. And then they look at the future of what he is. It was only a short 2-year contract he signed. He'll be a UFA next year. What do we do with Morgan Frost? What's your thought process here? If you were put in Conroy's shoes, is this the guy you want around for a while? Is this the guy you're unsure about? Is this the guy you want to move out in the next 12 months? What would you do, looking at what Morgan Frost has done, do with this guy at the end of the day, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been consistent enough for me to think that he needs to be here for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like Saturday's game, yes, he was excellent on Saturday. Like easily his best game as a Flame. You know, if he plays like that more often, then yeah, you're definitely more open to him staying around in Calgary. But you know, the word I would use to describe his stint here with the Flames is underwhelming. You know, he's under half a point per game since joining the Flames. Last season, you know, when they were in the mix for a playoff spot, him and Joel Farabee could have been two guys that could have put the team over the top and got them into the playoffs, and they didn't. They both struggled. And even this season, you know, Frost is the kind of guy that he goes really cold for a while, and then he'll heat up for a bit, and then he'll go ice cold, and then he'll heat up. And I just don't know if that's the type of player that you want to build your team around. So if it were up to me and I was in Craig Conroy's shoes, I would definitely have him, as well as basically every single other player on the trade block, kind of shopping them just to see what type of prices are available. And if you could recoup your second round pick for Frost, either, you know, between now and this year's deadline or at some point next year, I think that's something that you should seriously consider doing, unless he starts to really pick up the pace and he starts to play kind of like he did on Saturday. Like maybe the overall, maybe the best plan of attack for him would be keep him for this year, play him with Grindin, give him some more opportunities to show what kind of player he is. And if he can't find that consistency and he's still struggling a little bit, then I think it's pretty obvious you move him next year. But if he can find the consistency and play at that high level with that high skill and playmaking ability and speed, then it might be a guy you want to pick. So yeah, I guess it's a long way of saying I'm undecided, but I do think we should take the game on Saturday with a grain of salt. That's definitely for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are with you, Robert, on unsure, because when we traded for Frost, and you go back and check my tweets, how excited I was to bring this guy in, because I thought this could be a guy that could naturally take, and now they're different players and different styles, and I get that, could naturally take over from Backlund on that third line center role, be a guy that the kids can lean on as a veteran player, get some offense from this guy. Maybe the Flames and a change of scenery will help him produce a little bit more. And then it's just, like you mentioned, the word underwhelming there. It just wasn't what you thought you were going to get from this guy. And you're just like, oh no, there's more there. There's more there. And then he shows you with a game like he played on Saturday, he shows you what he can do when he's engaged. And you're just like, I wish you were just more consistent, because if he was a more consistent player that played similar to what we saw on Saturday, not saying he can play at that level all the time. That's a tall order to ask him to do for 82 games, but you can play similar levels. Then you have something there. You have a guy that can be part of the next core, the leadership group going forward. You have a guy that's going to get you your, almost 20 goals and maybe 45 points. You have a guy that you can rely on to help on the power play and things like that. But then you just see games like you saw last week. You go back to the games last week where the Flames were scoring 1 goal a game, and how pedestrian he looked in a lot of those games. And just like, that's what frustrates you about this player, and that's what makes you want to trade this player, and that's what makes you want to get back a second or third round pick and just get him out of town. And so you look at Morgan Frost, you're just like, when you're on your game, we love you. When you're off your game, it's just so bad that we want you out of town. And so I'm also undecided what to do with this guy. If I'm Craig Conroy, I've got to really tell this guy this offseason, it's do or die time for you now. You're gonna get these opportunities. You have these opportunities in front of you. You're playing with elite players. You're playing with Huberdeau. You're playing with our big up and coming Grindin, our scoring Grindin. We need to see the next step, and we need to see it consistently. Because if you're not going to get consistency from Morgan Frost, then you start looking at that same conversation we have with Connor Zary. There's guys coming behind you that can be effective, that can be consistent, that can take your job, that can be that next guy for the Flames. And so if Morgan Frost wants to be part of the long-term future of the Flames organization, I think the ball is firmly in his court because the opportunities are in front of him, and I hope he takes it because I actually really like the player.
And you made a great point earlier in the podcast about the next generation of leaders, and we're talking about those next generation of veteran players to kind of help this young group out. And Farabee and Frost, they have the potential to be part of it for sure. They're in that age range where 3 years from now they're both going to be right around 30 years old, and you're going to need those types of players in your organization. So you're right. If this applies to Farabee too, if both those guys can find a little more consistency to their game, show off their skill a little bit more, try to become like your next Backlund and Coleman type of duo, then there's a potential for these guys to have a long career in Calgary and a long career in the NHL. But if they remain super inconsistent and they think that they're these like super high skill players that should be getting 50, 60 points a year instead of like adapting to more of like a veteran sort of shut down 200-foot role while producing some offense, then they might not be here that long. But Matchsticks and Gasoline on Twitter, great Twitter follow.
Yeah, I like
he put out Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost production since coming to Calgary, and this is after the San Jose game. So in 85 games, Joel Farabee has 14 goals, 13 assists for 27 points. Not good enough for a guy making $5.5 million. And Morgan Frost, in 86 games played, he has 15 goals and 24 assists for 39 points, less than half a point per game. So, yeah, like I said, it has been a little underwhelming for both guys. And once again, we see these freaking flashes of skill from them, and you're like, oh, like it's there. Like if they can just harness that and be more consistent, like these guys could be really good NHLers, and we just haven't seen it yet. So, yeah, if I'm Conroy, I'm probably giving them another chance next season, and up to next year's deadline. If they continue to kind of play the way they have been and that being super inconsistent, then yeah, they're definitely on the trading block for sure.
We're having the same conversation Flyer fans were having on Twitter when they traded these two guys.
Totally,
we're having that exact same conversation. Just it's a big 28 games left for both of these guys to show what they have, because I think the writing's on the wall if they don't show something. I'm not expecting them both to be point per game guys, but be engaged, be physical, be the best lineman you could be, lead the team. Farabee, more penalty killing like he was doing on Saturday. For us, more engagement in the face-off circle. Just those little things that they can bring to the ice. It doesn't have to necessarily be a point per game, but it's got to be better than less than half a point per game from both of these guys.
Let me throw a question at you here.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully I'm not catching you off guard.
No, you're gonna. That's okay. I love it.
What is the meaning of life? No, I'm kidding.
Matvei Grindin.
When how do you evaluate players in a lost season, particularly in, like, we'll call it March and April in their final 30 to 25 games? Because you go back a few years, and I remember Joel Colborne, lighting it up in the final 2 months of the year, and he gets to 20 goals and he's scoring hat tricks and all this stuff. But the games were meaningless, and the Flames end up cutting him, and it turned out to be a really smart decision. So, like, say Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee go on a bit of a heater in these meaningless games to end the season. Like, how does that affect the way you view them?
It's a great question. When it comes to the basic counting stats, I don't really pay attention to them personally. I really want to look at a player's engagement level their willingness to do the little things still, their willingness to be part of something that's positive in the game. So an example would be like Colburn was scoring points, yes, but he was also engaged in those plays as well, right? So you want to see players still show up, still give you an honest effort, still show you that they're willing to still win this hockey game, whether it matters or not to the overall standings and to what the end goal of the season is, that this play still matters, that they're willing to still sacrifice for a block shot. They're willing to go to the corners and play the hard minutes still. Players that take, like Nazem Kadri a couple years ago when he's at the end of his rope with Sutter and he quit, that's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see players do that. So if they're still engaged, for me, you can still evaluate what they bring, because their underlying numbers are still going to reflect a lot of nice work that they do. You talked about speed bursts. That's one way to measure a player. You can talk about their high danger chances. There, a whole bunch of other things. So basic counting stats are always skewed in a lost season, in my opinion. So it's all for me about engagement with that player, what else they're doing on ice that shows me, hey, I'm still part of this. This still matters to me, and I'm going to be part of the solution.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the exact same way too. It's more of an eye test thing than it is
absolutely
than it is like a numbers thing. Because I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe Morgan Frost can go on an absolute heater here, but maybe if he's getting a lot of secondary assists, or like he's piling up the points, he's getting a 4-point night in a completely meaningless game. It's kind of hard to base your opinion off that. But yeah, if you see the work and you see the commitment to like a 200-foot game and all that kind of stuff, then that's I think more of a telling sign in these meaningless games here. But I just thought it was it's kind of interesting because we're talking about giving them another chance, and if they have a really strong finish to this year, that's a great thing. But then at the same time, it's lots of other guys have done that during meaningless games, and it hasn't proved to help them in the future. So I just thought it'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, that's a great question. That was a nice question. You speak of meaningless games. You speak of trying to evaluate players. So let's get to the conversation that I think a lot of people are hoping that we have on the podcast. The Flames have kicked this can as far down the road as they possibly can. Now they have to do something with it. And that's the Zayne Parekh conversation. He's back with the Flames. He had a decent conditioning stint in the AHL. He looked good at the World Junior Championships. He's back with the team. He seems healthy. He seems ready to go. He's going to play against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Monday night. So listening to this on Tuesday, you've already seen what he's done in that game. He possibly could play against the Oilers. But at the same time, there's also the Hunter Brzustewicz conversation, and how do you get him minutes and how do you play him? It's a logjam on the back end, Robert, and people want to see the kids, but at the same time, you have all these veterans playing well. What do you do? And then you have all these right-handed shots on top of that. How do you even all this out, Robert? What do you make of this group on the back end, and how do you fit in Zayne and Hunter going down the stretch here?
Well, in my opinion, I think the most important thing out of this whole conversation is to prioritize Zayne's ice time and the amount of games Zayne is playing, because you can send Hunter Brzustewicz back to the Wranglers, and yes, Hunter Brzustewicz has shown that he's an NHL defenseman. At the same time, it's not the worst thing in the world for him to go down and continue to develop and play first pairing minutes and dominate the AHL level. I have no issue with that for the rest of this season. In an ideal world, I think what you do is you move out one or two of Joel Hanley and Braden Pahal, and then you maybe move Mackenzie Weegar from the right to the left, and then all of a sudden that opens up spots for both Brzustewicz and Parekh for the rest of the season. And I think that's the most ideal outcome, but I don't think it's the worst thing for Brzustewicz to get sent down for a bit. If he gets sent down between now and the trade deadline and then comes back up for the rest of the season, I think that would be totally fine. So just because Zayne can't go to the AHL, I think the key is having him playing as much as possible in the NHL. I think that's the number one priority for this team. That's kind of how I would approach it.
Yeah, Brzustewicz has to play. So whether it is in the NHL or the AHL, he's got to play. Keep him going. Keep him playing. And he'll go down during the Olympic break. That's been widely reported by Pat Steinberg and others around the Flames, that he'll go down and play. And like you mentioned, if he stays there till the trade deadline, really that's only a few games. It's not very many games between now and the trade deadline left. And I think the priority has to be to get Zayne in the lineup, and that has to be at the expense of a Pahal or a Hanley or both, and that has to be prioritized over where Hunter Brzustewicz is playing. I think you're spot on there. I think it's important that both of these players play, and the Flames have a logjam, so they have to make something happen. I think they have to make a move. I like what Pahal can bring to a lineup, but do you really need him on top of Hanley and Ball and Kuznetsov? It really feels like redundancy there with the flexibility that Weegar brings to the lineup. With what you've seen from Kuznetsov, you think he could play with other players as well. So I think it really will benefit the Flames to have these young players coming in, and maybe even they rotate in. Maybe you keep them both around the team. And they just rotate that third pair with Hanley. Maybe that's the solution at the end of the day. Whatever it might be, I think you really have to find a place for both of these players to play and play consistently. And whether that's Brzustewicz in the AHL, then so be it. He has, in my opinion, outgrown the AHL or very close to it. But at the same time, he's got to play games. So I think that's a great, smart answer by you, Robert. You got to prioritize who you want to play. And the options for Parekh are very limited versus the options with Hunter. So the logjam prevents a hurdle for the Flames. I think is an easy solve with trading out a guy or putting a guy in waivers if you have to, I guess. But you got to let these kids play. You've got to let these kids play. Their minutes are more important than Mackenzie Weegar's 25 minutes. They're more important than making sure that Kevin Ball and White Cloud have 30 minutes. And the most important thing for the Flames right now is play Parekh in a number of situations and let him develop. Play Hunter in a number of situations and let him develop, because those two are going to be the future of your back end, regardless of who else is there. I think those two are going to be very big anchors for your back end for years to come. So you got to make sure that they play and play a lot. So it's a logjam for the Flames, and I don't envy Ryan Huska or making those decisions, and I don't envy Pat Steinberg tweeting them out, because he's going to get a lot of replies, because no matter the decision Ryan Huska makes, it's going to be the wrong one for a group of fans, and no matter who plays, someone's not going to like it, and this is just how it is. But let's play the kids.
The easiest move is to trade Joel Hanley, in my opinion, because I do think that
even though he's been so good,
he has been good. Yeah. Like the asset management here with Hanley has been brilliant. You pick him up off waivers, you get 1.5 or 2 good years out of the guy, and then you can end up flipping him for what I think could be potentially a 4th or 5th round pick. And we've seen how the Flames have drafted in that area over the last few years. That could end up being a player one day potentially. Mm-hmm. So it would suck to say bye to Hanley, because it does feel like people love him in the organization, and he has been a rock solid third pairing defenseman for this team. But in order to get the kids the playing time they need, something's got to happen. And if it means sacrificing a 35-year-old Joel Hanley, then so be it. But that's kind of how I would go about it. The one other thing I would add when it comes to the Parekh conversation, and I talked about this on Afterburner a few weeks ago with Kent Wilson, and we had a great discussion about Parekh. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch. It was really good. There's a YouTube video on it. And the one point I was really trying to make was, for the end of this season, basically for the next at least 2 or 3 years of Parekh's career, it's just take it easy on the kid. I'm begging people out there, please just treat the kid well. If he makes a defensive mistake, don't go on social media and just dunk on him for it and say that he's the worst defensive player in the league and he's never going to be a good NHL player and all this kind of stuff. Because for me, it just feels like Parekh, he's the type of person who his game is kind of predicated on confidence and having a good attitude. And if there's just constant negativity around him because people don't like his defensive game, that I actually think that might end up hurting him in the long term. So I would just say embrace his offensive style of play. Really enjoy watching him skate the puck up the ice and work a power play and score goals and set up plays. That's why he's a Calgary Flame. That's why they drafted him. If he makes defensive mistakes, and he absolutely will, because that's just the type of player he is, just take it easy on the guy and understand that, in the grand scheme of things, his offense is going to outweigh his defensive mistakes. And he's 19 years old. So just take it easy on the kid, let him develop, enjoy the offensive aspects to his game, and don't dunk on him and don't say that he's the worst defensive player in the league and all this kind of stuff. Like, he's a special talent, and if he's developed properly, I do think he can turn into a really good player in this league, but he won't be able to do that if the fan base is all over him for lack of defense. So, like, once again, I don't like telling people how to think, but I think in this situation here, I do think it's important to try to get some confidence going in this kid's game and support him and like be behind him and cheer for him and don't drag him down, because I just don't think that's going to be healthy for his long-term future. So just enjoy it. Just enjoy the offense, and yeah, don't be a dick.
That's where players like Kuznetsov are going to be really important for this Flames team, right? Too, going forward. Oh. Like he's going to be what Hanley is right now. Like Kuznetsov down the road will be that guy you put with your offensive guy, and you hope that his play, like much like people will rag on Bouchard, and I have myself too, but that's why Ekholm is so important for the Oilers. Like he played with Bouchard, he was able to make that pairing a good pairing because you had your guy you can count on, and you allowed your offensive defenseman to do what he does best. And at the end of the day, they went to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, so it's hard to argue against that success there. So the Flames have the opportunity to build this guy up and have this guy show off his skill and develop into an elite hockey player. Well, let him do what he does best, and that's create. And then you have a guy like a Kuznetsov or a Kevin Ball that can be paired with him and help and just be that guy to anchor him and help him out in his mistakes. And that's hockey for you. You're going to need both. You're going to need both kinds of defensemen. You need offense from the back end. That's how people win Stanley Cups now. And so in order for him to get to that level, they need to let this guy develop as much like we have with Hunter Pistevich. A lot of people gave him the patience, the time to develop, and he's looking a lot better for it. I think we need to do the same thing with Perek. That's a nice point by you, Robert.
Yeah, and like, you know, what we've seen from Evan Bouchard here over the last few weeks is exactly, I think, what we can expect from Zayne Perek. I mean, you know, a couple weeks ago, Bouchard gets the hat trick and he has a 6-point night, and he's dominating on the power play, and he's doing so much good for the Edmonton Oilers from an offensive perspective, but then he's going to have a gaffe like he did against the Minnesota Wild when Brock Faber absolutely undressed him and walked him. Yeah. And, you know, like those plays, they're ugly. They're ugly to watch. They're kind of embarrassing for the defenseman, but there's no perfect player in the NHL. And Zayne is certainly not a perfect player. He's very imperfect. And there's going to be times when he's going to get walked and he's going to turn the puck over and it's going to end up in the Flames net. But I think what you're hoping in the grand scheme of things is, you know, his 60 to 70 points, which is what we're hoping he can turn into as that type of defenseman, that's going to outweigh the defensive miscues. So they're going to happen. I think you just have to accept that they're going to happen. He's never going to become a great defensive player. And, you know, just like I said, just try to have fun with the offense he generates and try to understand that the offense that he does generate is going to outweigh the poor defensive play.
I will fight you on one thing. There is one perfect NHL player, and it's future Flame Cale Makar. So let's keep it real, Robert.
He is pretty damn perfect.
I do like it. Anything else you want to bring up on today's podcast? We talked a lot about Zayne Perek and the kids and Grindin. It was a nice, positive conversation. So I don't want to get into anything that's going to bring down the morale here, Robert. Anything else you want to bring up on the podcast? If not, where can the folks find you and your what's coming up on flamesnation.ca?
No, I like the conversation we had today, just keeping it future based and taking a look at the overall positive aspects of the team moving forward. I don't know if that's getting talked about enough during a really rough season here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just understanding there is a really solid foundation here to build on. And, you know, between now and, you know, 2028, 2029, I do think the Flames are on the precipice of building something special here. So it's just, I do think Flames fans, there's a lot to be excited for between the opening of Scotia Place and some of the young players they've been able to accumulate and who they're going to add, you know, like I said, over the next 2 to 3 drafts here. Like things are looking up. Things are looking pretty positive. So all good things right now.
The future is bright for the Flames, regardless of how ugly it's looked at times this season. I look forward to watching these guys come to camp next year and development and all that kind of stuff. Watching junior seasons next year, watching these guys develop even more, and then watching who can graduate from the Wranglers. There's a lot to look forward to as a Flames fan, despite what some of the current results are giving us. That's all part of the journey and part of the fun. So I encourage you guys. I always tell people, I'm like, try to enjoy the journey, try to enjoy the build, because once you're there, I'm not sure you're going to be able to enjoy it as much or as much if you don't enjoy these downtimes or appreciate what these downtimes are actually bringing us. Because when you get to the mountaintop, it's a lot of fun. From what I heard, so look forward to that as well. That is Robert Munich at Ring of Fire CGY across social media. I'm Vintage Johnny 84, and of course the show is Red Mile Rundown wherever you do your social media. We are there. Thank you so much for making us a part of your podcast rotations. Enjoy the last 2 games before the Olympic break, and then I cannot wait to watch some Olympic hockey as well. We'll chat with you next week. Enjoy and be safe out there.